Some days just don't go as planned, no matter how hard you try. You just want to pull the covers over your head and disappear. But as the head of the household, responsibility weighs heavily, even when you wish it wouldn't. My day began abruptly at 7:00 a.m. with a call from the police, a break-in at my bar. I rushed out to discover my truck had a flat tire, adding insult to injury after a mere 4 hours of sleep. I borrowed Melody's car and headed to the bar, only to find the place trashed and most of the liquor gone. The entrance was smashed in. It looked like a 2-week closure at least. The police classified it as a robbery, and after the insurance agent assessed the damage, I boarded up the entrance, waiting for repairs. Thankfully, insurance would cover the losses until we reopened. Around lunchtime, as I was about to leave in Melody's car, I heard someone shout, "Melody, wait!" I turned to see a man rushing toward me, stopping short when he realized his mistake. He apologized, mumbled something about the wrong car, and hurried off. Later at home, I described the incident to Melody, but she didn't recognize the man's description. When she asked why I'd needed her car, I told her about the break-in and the flat tire. After a quick lunch, I replaced the valve stem on my truck, then made a pit stop for new jeans, t-shirts, and a MAGA hat. Back home, I found a note from Melody, gone shopping. My late shifts on Fridays and Saturdays meant I often didn't get home until after sunrise. After 12 years, I finally shaved off my beard, showered, dressed, and completely forgot to brush my hair, leaving my curls a wild mess. The transformation was so drastic I barely recognized myself. I decided to check out some other bars in town. Melody was still out when I left. I snuck into the bar through the back entrance, changed into my new clothes, and grabbed a pair of reading glasses to complete my disguise. Clean-shaven and bespectacled, I looked years younger, almost like a college student. Knowing my truck was too conspicuous, I called a cab and headed to National Car Rental, where I picked up a nondescript white Ford Taurus. Starting from the north end of town, I made my way through various bars, observing and learning. I studied the staff, the ambiance, the clientele, the pricing, gathering intel for my own reopening. I'd order a drink, get what I needed, then usually leave before finishing it. It was at the 7th bar, a university student hangout down by the Mississippi River, that everything changed. Walking into New City Jack's, I saw my wife Melody dancing provocatively with another man. Fury surged through me, especially when I recognized him as the man who'd called out to her earlier. She'd lied. Melody was wearing a revealing outfit, showing ample cleavage. As a bartender, I knew appearances could be deceiving. Looking for a vantage point, I was offered a seat at a table if I'd buy a round. Surprised, I accepted and ordered a double gin and tonic. They were regulars, and they explained the weekend crowds were mostly university students. Later, I casually inquired about the woman in the revealing outfit. Melody Corbett, the redhead informed me, usually seen with her boss, Payne Richards. They're regulars, probably more than friends, considering Melody's complicated situation with her husband who works out of town. They usually leave together before the band's last set. I thanked them, bought another round, then excused myself. Outside, as I was deflating Melody's tires, I was interrupted by a redhead. Carrie, one of the women from the table. "How did you know who I was?" I asked. "I didn't, at first," Carrie explained. "I could tell from your expression you were trying to hide something all night. You kept looking at her, even though you tried not to. It all clicked when I saw you with her car, and your questions earlier made me wonder what her husband would do if he found out. So here I am, confirming my suspicions. You don't work on oil rigs, do you?" "Maybe we should talk," I suggested. "My bar, Boss on Botta Street, was trashed this morning," I confessed. "Melody thinks I'm still there. I used tonight to scope out the competition." "Take my keys," I offered. "I don't want you involved if someone else catches me." "You work at Boss on Botta? It's got a great reputation," she said, taking the keys. Later, I joined her in her car. Thankfully, we were alone. "Where to?" Carrie asked. "Somewhere private," I replied. This is my apartment, Carrie grinned as we arrived. Plus, I needed a ride home. I realized I'd driven her car. It was a 20-minute drive to her modular home outside of town. Another car was parked in the driveway. That's my car, Carrie explained. Susan, the brunette from our group, gave me a ride. Helps to have a friend if you want to avoid unwanted attention. She'd texted Susan saying she'd taken a cab home. Her house was immaculate, barely lived in. She grabbed us some beers. Carrie, I began. Thank you for intervening. I didn't know what to do. You looked like you might overreact, she admitted. He doesn't pay her, you know. They have a monthly room at the Rada Inn on 4th. Follow them after closing, you'll see. How do you know this? I asked, incredulous. My brother manages the place. He works Wednesday through Sunday. They've been seeing each other for over a year, Carrie replied. Melody told him you work on oil rigs, gone for months at a time, implying you had an open relationship. Seeing my shock, she continued, You had no clue at all? No, I admitted, stunned. First, I need proof, I stated. Second, her parents co-signed the loan for my bar. I still owe them $20,000. I'll talk to my brother, see what he can do. Maybe they have security footage. Or she could have a key card, Carrie suggested. I'll see him next Friday, our parents' anniversary. We exchanged numbers before I left. I wanted to see their reaction to the flat tires, further confirmation of Carrie's claims. I returned to the bar just before closing. The parking lot was well lit. Minutes later, Melody and Payne emerged, hand in hand, exchanging quick kisses. He unlocked her car door, then they both noticed the flat tires. All four were flat. Though I couldn't hear them, their body language spoke volumes about a long-term relationship. Payne called a tow truck. Within 20 minutes, someone arrived to inflate the tires, and they drove off, heading straight for the Rada Inn, just as Carrie had suggested. Later, Melody returned home, hair damp from a shower, carrying a Macy's bag. It was a painful realization. My wife had betrayed me. I returned the rental car, took a cab to retrieve my truck, and arrived home at 5 o'clock a.m., collapsing on the couch. Melody remained blissfully unaware that her affair had been exposed. Melody and I had met on a double date. I was instantly captivated by her mesmerizing eyes. Despite her father's strict rules, she'd won me over. I drove to see her every weekend, against my own father's wishes, eventually winning him over with persistence. She went to college. I took online business courses while working. By her sophomore year, we were engaged. That summer, the bar I now own went up for sale. I visited Melody's father, and we discussed renovating the dark, outdated establishment. He agreed to lend me money from his retirement fund at 6% interest and helped with the renovations. We transformed the bar, significantly reducing operating costs. Over a decade, I'd paid down the loan from $200,000 to under $20,000, and the bar's value had doubled. Melody's parents encouraged us to start a family, but she'd hesitated. I realized I wasn't considered father material. I quickly secured a commercial loan and paid off her father, who then returned the final payment, having profited from his own bar's sale. With his blessing, I cleared the bank loan, leaving only the unsecured debt to my in-laws. Repairs and renovations were underway at my bar, but Melody remained oblivious, lost in her own world. Friday night, disguised again. I tampered with her car's exhaust and Payne's company car's gas tank. Inside their favorite bar, they were engrossed in each other, their behavior attracting attention. Carrie stayed close, offering support. I discreetly bribed the bartender for a video of the happy couple, emphasizing discretion. "What's the plan?" he asked, after checking my ID and grinning, eager to help expose the cheaters. "For your eyes only," I whispered, pulling out my wallet. He hinted about getting some Spanish fly for a special after-hours party the following Saturday, which coincided perfectly with my bar's reopening on Thursday. Spanish fly, a potent aphrodisiac, was often prescribed to couples struggling with fertility. That night, feigning sleep, I heard Melody return home at 3 a.m., engaged in a lengthy phone call. The next morning, I rose early, and using her unlocked phone, discovered her conversation with Payne. Realizing I was home, she'd forgotten to delete her messages. One in particular caught my eye, to her older sister. "Sis, need an alibi for last night. Going to say I was with you." I discreetly took a photo. Later, Melody claimed she'd visited her siblings on Tuesday. Carrie texted, suggesting a meeting at the highway truck stop. She greeted me with a warm smile, snapping a picture for her contacts, despite my new mustache and goatee. Melody remained clueless. "Hi, Red," I greeted her, noticing her cheerful demeanor. "Caleb," she corrected. "You'd be happy too once you see what my brother dug up. He just asks you cover the printing costs." We ordered breakfast, eggs, sausage, bacon for me, cheese omelet for Carrie. The information revealed Melody had her own key card to Payne's room at the Rada Inn, used regularly on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7:00 p.m. for over 6 months. I showed Carrie the incriminating text message from Melody. "What's your plan?" Carrie asked. "Considering divorce?" "There's a special party next Saturday for Melody and Payne," I explained, hoping for plenty of video evidence. "It's going to be wild. Once I have everything, I'll show it to her father and explain why she won't be seeing my kids. Simultaneously, she'll be served with divorce papers in their hotel room, all caught on tape." "Email it to me when it's ready," Carrie offered. "Why?" I asked, masking my satisfaction at the poetic justice of it all. "Payne's corporate car is totaled, and there's a foul odor coming from Melody's car. I'm suggesting to our company that an upset husband might be to blame." "When should it be sent?" I asked, barely able to contain my grin. "The timing is perfect," Carrie chuckled. "Can I mention your name?" I burst out laughing. "You can be quite the schemer, Carrie." "And you, Caleb, can be an idiot," she replied, joining in the laughter. "And yes, you may use my name." "I executed it perfectly," I smirked. "I'll never tell how." We'd arranged for medication through our doctor, and I discreetly swapped Melody's birth control pills with sugar pills, buying myself some time. I'd had a stroke of bad luck the other night when someone ran a red light runner totaled my truck the other night, I explained to Carrie. Caused a pileup, jaws of life, hospital, full checkup. Melody and her parents met me there. 6 hours of tests, then released. Doctor's orders, rest for 2 days, no driving for a week. Melody stayed home to take care of me. By Saturday, I was itching to get back to the bar. While getting ready, I overheard Melody making plans to go out. I asked her to drop me off at the bar, pretending I just wanted to check on the renovations. Sales doubled that night thanks to the new cook. We were completely sold out. We were even starting to attract a lunch crowd with daily specials that complemented the bar's theme. The restaurant closed at 8 p.m., but we offered pickled eggs and sausages afterwards. An elderly but energetic retired gentleman had proposed a partnership. He'd set up his kitchen in the bar and demanded 10% of the profits. His scratch-made shepherd's pie and Irish stew were a huge hit, necessitating additional kitchen staff. Around 8:30 p.m., Carrie and Lazar walked in with her friend Susan. Carrie looked stunning in an Irish-themed outfit. They sat at a table, enjoying the traditional music. Carrie's green ensemble turned heads. I sent over a round of specialty drinks, compliments of the house. "Hey, Caleb," Carrie called out. "Thanks for remembering our favorites. This is my friend Susan." I shook Susan's hand as she excused herself briefly, ordering a ginger ale. I avoided drinking at my own bar, a rule I'd maintained for a decade. Returning to the table, Carrie slid into the seat next to me, while Susan remained across from us, unfazed. "Just wanted to announce this before the others arrive," Carrie said. "Susan, Caleb is Melody's ex-husband." "Really?" Susan exclaimed, surprised. "Yeah," I confirmed. "When we first met, I was checking out the competition while my bar was being renovated. Carrie caught me doing something I shouldn't have, and after a conversation, I gave her a ride home. We've been friends ever since." "He had no idea what his wife was up to while he was working," Carrie explained. "That's why we're here today. Wanted to make sure he wasn't alone," she added, squeezing my hand. "Why this place?" Susan asked. It's known for being high class, I chuckled. I'll take that as a compliment, though that wasn't my intention. I just wanted to create a nice place to bring my girlfriend. Caleb not only built this bar, he owns it, Carrie added. Carrie and I exchanged a look as Susan's expression registered surprise. Soon, the place was packed. When the rest of Carrie's group arrived, our table was full. Carrie and Susan kept me on the dance floor all night, much to the amusement of my staff, who commented on the unusually crowded dance floor. Surprisingly, everyone agreed the music volume was perfect, loud enough to enjoy, but not so loud that conversation was impossible. At closing time, I asked Carrie for a ride home. She mentioned that most of her friends preferred my bar to the other establishments in town, as it wasn't geared toward the university singles scene. This pleased me, as word of mouth was expanding my customer base. Waking up Sunday morning to find Melody gone wasn't a surprise. I spent 2 hours trying to locate her, feigning concern, calling family members, even confiding in Carrie. As I was talking to her, my father-in-law called. "Hey, Dad," I greeted him. "Still no word?" "No, Caleb," he replied, his voice heavy. "That's why I'm calling. Mary and I decided to have brunch at the Rada Inn on 4th. Wish we hadn't. Melody's car is parked here." "I'm stuck without my truck, Dad. Can't make it." "You guys enjoy brunch. I'll catch up later," I said, feigning concern. My father-in-law was a man of strong convictions, seeing the world in black and white. He found Anderson Cooper's truth questionable. He was surprised I didn't have any tattoos, but I valued self-respect. Our society, I'd argued with him once, prioritizes self-interest over community. We debated law and order, one side preaching responsibility, the other endorsing irresponsibility. Racist has become a political weapon, branding dissenters as enemies, I'd remarked. If Napoleon were alive, he'd applaud their tactics. To them, anyone who didn't adhere to their doctrines was the enemy, labeled a racist, subject to harassment and attacks. Now, they infiltrate democratically governed cities, masked, imposing their brand of social justice, I'd argued. They only want to hear their own beliefs echoed, even though leadership promises investigations and charges. We both know that's unlikely. Equal justice is a bygone ideal. The situation will worsen before it improves, he'd agreed. It mirrors Napoleon's rise, history repeating itself. Disheartening. One party reintroducing such divisive rhetoric. It felt like the lead-up to the Civil War. "This is our reality now, Dad," I'd concluded. If Melody's father caught her with her lover, there was a chance he'd react violently. I texted Carrie the information about Melody's car at the Rada Inn, along with the photo of the text message to her sister. She laughed. "What are you up to, Reggie?" "Besides smiling, not much," I replied. "Want to come get me? Hang out?" she offered. I admitted I'd love to, but I didn't want to disappear, given everyone's concern. Around 6 p.m., as I was eating pizza in the kitchen, a car pulled into the driveway. It was Melody's dad, alone. He looked utterly defeated. I let him in. Inside, I poured him a Maker's Mark and offered him a slice of pizza on a clean plate. "Dad, it's serious. After your call, I talked to Mandy, Hester's sister, to confirm my suspicions," he explained. "I asked the hotel's day manager to alert the night manager early. Turns out, Melody's been having an affair for over 6 months. Mandy found out and agreed to keep quiet, thinking Melody wanted to sow her wild oats before settling down. I feigned shock, but part of me was genuinely surprised by Mandy's honesty. As I was leaving, Melody showed up, with her lover, wearing a smug grin, like he'd won a prize. I was so shocked, I nearly fainted. It took both managers to pull me away. "I came here because I figured it'd be the last place the cops would look," Dad confessed. "Dad, I'll call Mom first and let her know you're safe. Then I'll talk to the Rada Inn manager about pressing charges." My mother-in-law was devastated, but relieved her husband was safe. Melody called to apologize, but her mother wasn't having it. "Your apology means nothing, Melody," she'd retorted. "You've caused enough trouble already." Afterward, I called Jason Lasher, Carrie's brother, to settle a $5 bet. He joked about his sister, reminding me she never forgets. He suggested I pay him in front of Carrie to finally put it to rest. Why? I'd asked. It'll save us both a lot of trouble, he replied. She needs to learn to let go. I reassured him of my intentions, explaining that I was still married and wouldn't make any decisions until the divorce was finalized. I promised to be careful. He then informed me that the police hadn't been called, and Payne had agreed not to press charges, thanks to Melody's persuasion. Relieved, I shared the good news with Dad before calling Mom, seeing the relief wash over his face. What are you planning to do about this? He asked, clearly worried. I pulled out my phone and drafted a message to Melody, showing it to her father. It read, Dad just told me everything. Congratulations. You've successfully dismantled our family in a single day. Do not come home. The Melody I knew is gone. If you choose him over us, our marriage is over. Otherwise, it's a slow, painful demise over the next 6 months. I meant every word. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to repair. Let's end this marriage, quickly, with dignity, he declared, sending the message. Mary, my ex-mother-in-law, always said Melody had married her father. This only proved her right. After pizza and a few drinks, we headed to Lumberland for 3 deadbolt locks. Soon after they were installed, the rest of the family arrived, Mandy, Jack, and Mary, along with their adorable kittens. They left around 10 p.m. I texted Carrie, You awake? She called immediately. Are you okay? Jason called and filled me in. Payne has 2 black eyes and a broken nose, I chuckled. Your father-in-law decked him before Jason intervened. He used to box, amateur, when he was younger, I explained. Would have loved to see that. After the incident, he came here, distraught, I continued. Learned from your brother that no charges were filed, so I updated the family. They'd already gathered to discuss the situation. What about Melody? Carrie asked. I told her about my father-in-law's question and the message I'd drafted. Let's end this marriage with dignity, he said, and sent it. Your father-in-law spoke for you? Couldn't you forgive her? Give her another chance? Carrie questioned. No. For him, she broke trust beyond repair. He sees things in black and white. She made her choice. Consequences be damned. And I agree with him, I stated. He even helped me change the locks. Any updates on last night? Carrie inquired. Haven't had a chance to check. Been busy, I chuckled. But I suppose it doesn't matter now. I'll keep my promise. I'll wait until Monday night, she assured me. From what I've heard, it might surprise you. Why? I asked. Word is the bartender at New City Jack's has a side hustle in certain types of videos, Carrie chuckled. If that's true, I wouldn't be surprised if he capitalized on the situation. Are you serious? I asked, incredulous. Absolutely, Carrie replied. But back to business. When's our official first date? How about the day Melody gets served? I suggested, grinning. I'll even arrange for her to be served at the office. Just remember, you're sending red roses beforehand. I want to drive home the point that she violated my standards of fidelity, Carrie remarked. Tomorrow at work will be interesting. After ending the call, I thought about Carrie. Around 24, unmarried, attractive. About 5'8", not skinny, but what my grandfather would have called childbearing hips. She worked at the same dental company as Melody and Payne, but not in management, as far as I knew. Discerning about who she let into her life, close to her family and a small circle of friends, which now included me. She enjoyed dancing and drinking, sociable, like me. But Carrie was also cautious, leaving me with more questions than answers. Her level of education seemed higher than her current position suggested, hinting at hidden depths. Getting ready for bed, I hummed, Hey Carrie Ann, what's the game? Anyone can play. Anticipating a difficult Monday, I arranged for my assistant to manage the bar until I dealt with my personal matters. Mandy arrived in Jack's truck to help pack Hester's belongings. We stopped for packing supplies, determined to do this properly. Starting with the master bedroom, while I assembled boxes. Mandy began sorting through dresser drawers. "Caleb," she said, "I'm appalled by my sister's behavior. I never approved, but I stayed quiet, hoping she'd come to her senses. When Dad told me about your message, I broke down and told him the truth. She'd only known for a month. He took it hard, like he'd failed as a father. I think Mom feels the same way." "Mandy, I'm still processing everything," I admitted. "The night Melody texted you, I stumbled upon it accidentally. I was at the bar scouting the competition when I took that photo. I just wanted proof for a confrontation. I never expected it to unravel like this. I truly regret it." "Didn't you tell her the bar had been broken into and was closed?" she asked. "I did," I replied. "But in hindsight, I realized she heard, but didn't listen. I should have recognized it as her way of signaling the end of our marriage. Melody had always been sheltered by her father, as had I. Mandy believed I needed to experience fatherhood to truly appreciate the sacrifices he had made. I tried to instill those same values in my children. Melody, even from a young age, had a skewed sense of right and wrong. That hadn't changed, and part of me wished I'd seen it sooner. I often think about your parents," I admitted to Mandy. "Few can claim their father-in-law as one of their closest friends." As Mandy reached Hester's lingerie drawer, she asked for sewing scissors. I quickly retrieved them. Before packing the undergarments, she cut out the crotch of the panties and between the cups of the bras, perhaps a message to her sister. The altered items were tossed into a box. I appreciated the gesture. I couldn't have done it myself. It took us about 4 hours to pack half of Melody's belongings. I suggested lunch before we continued, and Mandy agreed, taking me to a new Chinese restaurant called Yumi. The buffet was impressive and reasonably priced. We arrived as the lunch rush was ending, and ran into Payne on his way out. Sporting 2 black eyes, a broken nose, and swollen lips, he was a testament to my father-in-law's handiwork. "Mandy, my father did that to him?" she exclaimed. "It'll take 2 months to heal. An eyewitness told me your dad only hit him 3 times before they pulled him off." "From the looks of Payne, my dad still packs a punch," I remarked, surprising Mandy. "If they hadn't stopped him, would Payne be in the hospital?" "Not sure," I replied, getting out of the car as we reached the restaurant entrance. As if on cue, Payne reappeared, urging Mandy to unblock Melody. "Payne," Mandy asked, "have you met my brother-in-law Caleb?" I stepped forward. Payne's face paled as he recognized me as the driver of Melody's car. He raised his fist. "If that's how you want it, Payne, fine," I said. "Mandy will confirm you started it." As soon as she nodded, I kicked him in the groin, then punched him twice in the face, following up with a flurry of blows until he collapsed. One final punch for good measure. Feeling a sense of release, I escorted Mandy inside. We were seated, and I ordered unsweetened tea while she opted for a cola. "Before we eat," Mandy began, "did my daddy teach you those moves?" "Not exactly," I explained. "But part of my job is handling troublemakers. I didn't want a fair fight. I wanted it over quickly." As Mandy and I filled our plates, my phone rang. Melody. I ignored it. "I think her boyfriend already called her," I remarked. "Too bad he won't be giving her anything else anytime soon." Mandy burst out laughing, drawing stares from other diners. I made a mental note not to joke with her in public again. "That was hilarious," she chuckled. "I almost peed myself." "Glad you didn't," I teased. "How would you explain that to Jack?" I might have yelled, "Flash flood," she joked. "Stop it," she said, laughing again. After lunch, we finished packing, unloading everything at Jack's storage unit around 5 p.m. I paid the deposit and first month's rent, leaving the key with the owner. I texted Melody the storage unit information. My insurance company had called with a lowball offer for my totaled truck, so I'd requested a replacement with comparable mileage. This would cost them more in the long run. Back home, Carrie and Susan were waiting. I introduced them to Mandy as Melody's colleagues and invited everyone in. Mandy filled Jack in on the situation, and we all relaxed with a few beers. "We stopped by to check on you," Carrie said. And to see if you wanted to join us for dinner, Susan added. Several people had a rough day at work, she continued. Payne was seriously injured this morning, ended up in the hospital this afternoon. Melody was apartment hunting during lunch. Can't say I feel sorry for any of them, Mandy replied. We spent the day moving Melody's stuff into storage. Caleb let me pack her underwear, making it easily accessible for her future lovers. I notified Payne's company about his and Melody's misconduct, Carrie explained. Attached a picture of Payne's face after your father-in-law got to him. Made it clear that office romances, especially long-term affairs, were unacceptable. Do you hate my sister that much? Mandy asked Carrie. No, I dislike her behavior. I come from a family where we take responsibility for our actions, Carrie replied. If we did something good, we were praised. If we did something bad, there were consequences. I just think they got away with it for too long. I excused myself to take a call from the bar. Later, Carrie filled me in on what I'd missed. So, Carrie Ann, I began, how long have you been in love? With Caleb? Mandy asked, sincerely curious. The night I met him, he discovered his wife's affair, Carrie recounted. I saw him struggling to control his anger. Instead of confronting her publicly, he deflated her tires. He didn't want me involved, which showed consideration. He was ready to face the consequences alone. We talked that night. He didn't curse or humiliate Melody. He just wanted proof to explain to his father-in-law why she didn't want children. Caleb's always been empathetic, Mandy added. He's the peacemaker in family disputes, even when he's hurting himself. You have my approval, Carrie, Mandy continued. But if you hurt him, I won't hesitate to intervene. When your father found out about Melody and Payne, he came to Caleb for support, Carrie revealed. Did you know he sent the text that ended their marriage? No, Mandy exclaimed. That explains why they never talked about reconciling. Call Jack and the kids. Meet us at the bar, I told Mandy. I'm making dinner for everyone, including Susan and Carrie. Give me a minute to change. When I returned, Mandy was gone, and Susan was in the kitchen. Carrie had cleaned up. We exchanged appreciative glances. I like your sister-in-law, Carrie remarked. I think we'll be good friends. She speaks highly of you too, I replied, as Carrie hugged me. We shared a look, a silent acknowledgement of the growing connection between us. Walking hand in hand to the car, sharing smiles with Susan, Carrie took the front seat, and I sat in the back, a sense of anticipation building. We're taking it slow, Carrie said, as Susan commented on our leisurely pace. Small steps until this mess is sorted out. I want to be a stay-at-home mom, with a husband who shares my values. Mandy's children greeted us enthusiastically at her house. Mandy commented on how well I interacted with her daughters, often able to calm them down when they were upset. I made a mental note to get more bar stools. Mandy parked Jack's truck at his hardware store. The shepherd's pie was a hit, even with the older crowd. Carrie, sitting next to me, shared her bread pudding. Carrie tasted my drink, surprised to find it was non-alcoholic. Teasing me? She whispered. Made a promise to myself. No drinking at the bar before opening, I explained. Tears welled in her eyes. She looked proud. My assistant reported strong sales, over $1,000 in food alone. I paid my tab with my debit card, emphasizing honesty to my staff. Not everyone agrees, Carrie commented, but if you think about it, it adds up. I left a 20% tip. Susan and Carrie drove me home. I opened my email to find a video from the bartender, Jack, documenting Saturday night's events. Titled Surviving University Night, it featured Melody and Payne. The video included legally witnessed contracts and was now for sale on an adult website. I texted Carrie the update, adding that Melody would make sure her parents never saw it. Later, Carrie arrived, looking dramatically different. I'm stunned, I managed. Who are you, and what have you done with my Carrie Ann? Do you like it? She responded, twirling. I've changed my look for good. Your message gave me the perfect excuse to explain. I've been working undercover for the FDA, investigating Richard's dental supply for over 2 years, Carrie revealed. They've been selling contaminated materials from China, laundering the source through multiple shell companies. Most buyers are unknowingly using lead-laced dental products. Payne, with his history of preying on married women, is a danger to Melody. Then I came along and diverted your attention, I interjected. Is Susan an agent too? Yes. We met in college studying accounting, Carrie explained. Before we go any further, she continued, I need you to forward that video and any related information to my FBI contact. The bartender at New City Jack's is involved in similar activities as Melody and Payne. Your intel could help shut down their operation. We sent the information jointly. I poured Carrie a glass of wine. I grabbed a beer. Her phone rang. My mom. I offered her some privacy, but she declined, putting the call on speakerphone. Hi, Mom, Carrie greeted her cheerfully. Looks like you got my message. Did you really resign from the FDA? Her mother asked. Yes. Susan and I are wrapping things up this week, then starting our own firm. We'll testify if needed, but we're staying local for now. We've been urging you to settle down for years. Why now? Her mother inquired. Mom, Carrie laughed. Why did you move back home? Okay, Mom, Carrie relented. I met someone who piqued my interest enough to make me consider settling down. Is this the Caleb you've mentioned? Her mother asked. Mom, enough. Goodbye, Carrie said, ending the call. Empty nest syndrome, right? I joked. Tomorrow I have a divorce lawyer appointment, Carrie said, changing the subject. Susan and I are leaving Richards. The FDA raids on Wednesday. They want us out before they execute the warrants, even though they already know where to look. Carrie left around 1:00 a.m. Tuesday morning, I settled the rental car issue with my insurance company, then headed to the lawyer's office to initiate divorce proceedings. I was her first appointment. She asked for proof, so I recounted the entire story, letting her listen to the recorded conversation with my father-in-law. I also provided the printed records from the Rada Inn. This will strengthen our position if Hester agrees to my proposed settlement, I explained. We then should arrange a meeting with Hester and her attorney, I told my lawyer. Show them what's on this flash drive. It depicts what transpired last Saturday night. With their consent, of course. I've even forwarded the email confirmation. What makes you so sure she won't contest this? My feminist lawyer inquired. Take the flash drive home. Watch the 2-hour video. Alone. I keep the business. She gets the house. No alimony, I suggested. And if she refuses? She pressed. Then every member of both families receives a copy. Anonymously, I stated, getting up to leave. Caleb, she sighed. Can you always be this ruthless? Only when someone's actions leave me no other choice, I replied. She made me realize the last 12 years of my life were largely a waste. Meanwhile, Carrie and Susan resigned in person, delivering the news directly to Melody, the office manager. She was stunned. Replacing them would be difficult. Payne, still visibly injured, spent the day in his office fielding calls from headquarters. Confident in his job security, thanks to family connections, he agreed to cover the cost of 2 company cars out of his own pocket. He was given an ultimatum: marry Melody or fire her. Post-divorce, of course. After leaving my lawyer's office, I went to see a real estate broker. I wanted to know what office buildings were on the market. He mentioned one that he thought could be a gold mine if the new owner could secure a reputable anchor tenant. It's only 5 blocks from Boss, on Bata. It's bank-owned now, he explained. I think they're getting tired of carrying it. With some cosmetic updates, paint, landscaping, the 3-story building could be easily revitalized. After considering it, I agreed. We drafted a lowball offer, contingent on financing and inspection. I asked if I could show a potential client the space I had in mind for them. He gave me the keys. Could you and Susan swing by the bar? Need to show you both something, I texted Carrie. Sure, she replied quickly. I called my father-in-law. Dad, got an hour or two? Why? He asked. I might have to sell the bar to settle the divorce, I explained. Need to start thinking about a fresh start. There's an office building I'm considering, and I wanted your opinion." He agreed. I picked him up, and we walked through the building, checking the electrical and plumbing. He pointed out a few things the inspector might miss, potential bargaining chips. I told him the asking price and my offer. "Smart move," he said. "You can always go up, but you can't go down. I think you should go for it. You'll need a couple of new anchor tenants, though." "I have 2 ladies in mind," I replied, starting their own accounting firm, already working with Melody and me, in case I am forced to sell Bass. He grinned. "If you get it, I'll help you renovate the space for them. It's bigger than their current office with plenty of parking. Mandy speaks highly of them. Trustworthy, she says." "Thanks, Dad," I said, grateful for his support. "Do you think Melody will go after the bar and the divorce?" that he asked. "The Melody I knew probably wouldn't," I replied. "The one I'm divorcing? Absolutely. She'll twist everything to make herself the victim." My father-in-law looked surprised. "But that's not fair. It's not the truth." "Dad, you and I know that. But name one situation, outside of a legal contract, where the truth actually matters, especially in a divorce. It's all about what the judge believes. If we'd had kids, I'd be screwed," I lamented. "But it's not right," he insisted. "Dad, we agree. But we're in the minority. We still believe in right and wrong. Most people only care about themselves these days. The days of for the greater good are long gone," I remarked. "Look at the homelessness in California, the so-called promised land. Reality is what the media feeds them on any given day, and it's always changing." Back at the bar, my realtor informed me the bank had accepted my offer, but wouldn't finance the purchase. Despite my loyal banking history, I started looking for financing online, submitting 5 years of tax returns to prove I was a good risk. Susan, Carrie, and I walked through the vacant ground floor of the building I was about to purchase. It had previously housed a call center. I described my vision for the new bar and restaurant, then asked about their office space needs. "We can't afford build-out costs," Susan admitted. "We need something move-in ready." "I'll cover the cost myself," I decided. "Develop the space as the bar gets going. I'll know about financing by Friday. Expect to get the building below appraisal," I assured them. "Melody's dad will help with construction, keeping costs down." "Why go to all this trouble?" Carrie asked. "The court might force me to sell Bass as part of the divorce settlement. Planning ahead," I explained. "Just write down your needs for the next 2 years. I'll go from there." Susan raised another point. "What if you don't have to sell Bass?" My assistant's promotion and my recent accident meant I needed a contingency plan. "Planning ahead," I replied, wincing at the memory of Wednesday's accident. Melody, accompanied by her parents and the FDA, had made the rounds to all the regional dental offices and headquarters. By Friday, Melody and Payne were at Richards's corporate office, finalizing the sale. I'd managed to secure an additional $250,000 for renovations. We began demolition on the ground floor, stripping it down to the bare concrete walls. Our draftsman drew up detailed plans, incorporating an elevator shaft for all 3 floors and additional plumbing for Carrie and Susan's future office space. Contractors installed 2 entrances, one from the street and one from the main lobby. We excavated for the elevator shaft and erected an interior concrete wall simultaneously. Carrie and Susan flew to Washington every Sunday, returning on Friday, helping with the renovations as much as possible. Negotiations between Melody's lawyer and mine were futile. Fed up, I scheduled a meeting with all parties involved, prepared for a confrontation. After completing the elevator shaft, we sandblasted the building's exterior, restoring the original red brick. The crew replaced the flat roof, then moved inside. Their office space would include restrooms, a lunchroom, a reception area, and 6 offices. My portion included public restrooms, a storage area, and a band platform with a dance floor. The contractors finished their section in 2 weeks. 2 more office buildings nearby were purchased. 2 others were sold and converted into a new Bank of America branch. The local paper praised the neighborhood revitalization. My meeting with my soon-to-be ex and her lawyer was set for Friday. The kitchen equipment arrived and was installed on the new white tile floor. An oak bar was built, and dark pine laminate flooring was laid. Electrical work was completed in both sections. Tables, chairs, and booths were ordered, scheduled for delivery on Monday. All this in under 2 months. My real estate agent secured a long-term tenant for the second and third floors, a legal team. They'd cover the mortgage, taxes, and associated expenses. At the meeting with my attorney, Melody brought up my desire for fatherhood. I listened skeptically, laughing when she claimed she was still on birth control when she got pregnant. I proposed a DNA test, then instructed my lawyer to reveal the contents of the flash drive. Melody paled when she learned the video had over 2 million hits, each generating $5.99. As legally married partners at the time, I claimed 5% of the proceeds from her one-night stand, a marital asset. I gave her the weekend to propose a fair settlement, or I'd release the video publicly. On Tuesday, I broke the silence. I know who the father of your child is, Melody. His name is Payne, I stated firmly, then walked out. You made your choice. Face the consequences. 10 minutes later, my lawyer called. Caleb, Melody's offering $350,000 to keep the video private, on the condition you remain silent about certain matters and relinquish any claim to the proceeds. Draw up the settlement agreement, I instructed, but hold the funds in escrow until I'm satisfied. When will the divorce be final, I asked, eager to move on. I'll schedule a court date, but it won't be finalized for 30 days after the judge signs the decree, he explained. Dressed to impress, I waited at the airport with red roses for Carrie and yellow roses for Susan. Their faces lit up when they saw me. I greeted them with checks in hand, representing their agreed-upon financial arrangements. We loaded their luggage into my new sedan, purchased with cash from a settlement I found acceptable. Before we go home, I want to show you your finished offices, I told them. The rest of the building is rented to a law firm, I explained, answering Carrie's question. What about the losses from the incident? Carrie asked. I just laughed. It had been substantial. At a subsequent meeting with their lawyers, I presented proof of Melody's earnings from the video, arguing that since it was filmed during our marriage, I was entitled to half the income. Carrie cried tears of relief as I explained our new arrangement. I would keep the bar, my house, and receive $350,000. She had a week to remove any furniture she wanted from the house. What are your plans for the house? She asked. I'm selling it, I replied. Don't want any lingering memories to hinder our future. Tears of joy streamed down Carrie's face. Susan, Carrie remarked later, you're still as slow as molasses in January. It took you 2 months to admit what you knew the night we met. Mandy and her family were right about you, Caleb, Susan admitted. But when you finally commit, you do it right. Even Susan, usually reserved, became emotional when she saw their new office space. The warm, professional atmosphere, decorated in oak and pastel colors, impressed them both. All that's left is to name the business, register it, and buy furniture and equipment, I said, smiling. You ladies have a great eye for color, I told Carrie as she hugged me. I love you, I finally admitted, kissing her, no longer holding back. Later, I drove Susan to Carrie's house, where they were both living now. It was the first time Carrie had been to my house. We spent hours talking, catching up, and other things. After breakfast at our favorite deli, I took Carrie to Gerard's to look at rings. She found one she loved, but hesitated at the price. I insisted on buying it, envisioning it as a future heirloom, perhaps a gift for our daughter's 16th birthday. Even the salesperson was touched as she processed the sale. The first person Carrie called was Susan. We agreed to meet at Bass at 6:00 p.m. I suggested she invite her parents. I was eager for them to meet the man who'd convinced their daughters to move back home. I called Daniel, my former father-in-law, and Mary, whom I still called Mom and Dad, and invited them as well. They readily accepted. I told them Melody and I had reached a divorce settlement, finalized the following week. Learning that Melody and Payne had announced their engagement, though they hadn't spoken to me, I asked Mandy to bring her family too. I arranged for the chef to prepare a special meal for the occasion, traditional Irish lamb stew and soda bread with his special twist, and Irish coffee with fresh cream for everyone except me. To my surprise, a private table in the back had been reserved for us. Daniel and Mary arrived first, giving me a chance to introduce Carrie. Then, unexpectedly, Carrie's parents, Bob and Roseanne Lasher, joined us. Daniel had kept them in the loop. When Jack and Mandy arrived, their young children rushed to me, hugging me tightly. Carrie opened her arms, and the younger one toddled over to her. During a wonderful dinner, we announced Carrie's engagement. The size of the ring stunned everyone. Carrie explained the story behind it, and my reasoning, bringing her mother to tears and eliciting approving nods from the family. When Carrie said it was okay for me to call her parents Mom and Dad, I assured them they would always be Mom and Dad to me as well. The food, as always, was exceptional. When the bill came, Carrie's father insisted on paying. I started to protest, but Carrie stopped me with a gentle nudge. After everyone left, except Carrie's parents, we recounted our story in detail. Bob asked why I never drank Irish coffee. Carrie explained my policy of abstaining from alcohol at my own bar, setting an example for my employees. Impressed, Bob joked that our restaurant was fit for his daughter and her friend, praising the office design and my principles. Daniel considered me the son he never had, someone who stood by his values. Off the record, I considered him the father figure I never had. Growing up poor, without a father, my mother raised my sister and me alone after he left before they were even married. Meeting Daniel through Melody, I found him tough, street smart, and uncompromising, but always principled. He taught me invaluable lessons about strength and integrity, shaping the man I am today. Daniel was my father, not by blood, but by choice. I owed much of my moral compass to him. We stood in comfortable silence until the ladies returned. Then Carrie's father spoke, expressing his approval of our relationship, welcoming me into their family. Carrie was shocked. He'd never approved of any of her previous partners. We spent the night together, and it was hard to see her leave the next morning. Carrie and Susan wanted to leave the FDA on good terms. I listed the house on Monday, signed the divorce agreement on Wednesday, and the trust fund was released on Friday. I watched as the judge finalized the divorce. Melody didn't show up. I picked up my assistant and showed him the layout of the new bar. He agreed to manage it for $75,000 a year, plus a 10% bonus based on net income. Charlie's Bar and Grill was born. 3 years later, Corbett and Sullivan Accounting thrived, and Charlie's was a local favorite. Melody and Payne's marriage imploded when she caught him with her best friend. Her family remained distant. The birth of our twins brought immeasurable joy amidst life's usual challenges. Carrie, in the throes of labor, jokingly named me Payne. We proudly introduced our red-haired babies to our families.